Well, what a great joy it is to welcome all of you to our beautiful Cathedral of St. Patrick, to welcome so many of the faithful from the diocese, and especially in this very busy time of the year, this week after Christmas, to be able to have this time together to together open this Jubilee year 2025. So thank you so much, all of you, for coming to be with us today. Particularly grateful to Father Joshua Brahmer, and who's the rector and the pastor of the cathedral, of course, and director of worship, and to the musicians of the cathedral, the Schola, Diocesan Schola, and all of the staff and volunteers who make all of our diocesan celebrations here at the cathedral so wonderful. It is truly a blessing, too, to have so many of my brother priests here this afternoon, and deacons who are with us, consecrated religious, and to have the orders represented, the orders of the Holy Sepulchre, Jerusalem, and also the Knights of Malta, our St. Michael's Guard, of course, and the Knights of Columbus. And thank you for this wonderful, truly diocesan celebration. And our seminarians, how could I forget them? It's good to have them with us, of course, as well. A diocesan celebration to get us off to a start together. You know, the Holy Father speaks so often about the sense that as people of faith, we are a community. We journey together. We need one another. We accompany each other, Pope says so often. And with this Jubilee year, we're conscious that we accompany one another as pilgrims of hope, that we're going somewhere. We're literally, as we walked from the beautiful St. Lawrence Church to our cathedral, it represents to us that journey of faith that we are all embarking upon and have been upon throughout our lives. The Word of God for this Mass today, Holy Family Sunday, has several images of pilgrimage that can help us to enter into the spirit of this year that lies ahead, that unfolds for us ahead. We are pilgrims of hope, journeying together with the entire family of humanity. In Jesus Christ, we always have hope, no matter what the circumstances are that are unfolding around us on the journey. In Jesus, we always have hope. You know, the Holy Father has said, too, that we are always looking forward, but we're looking forward to receive the fullness of a reality that's already happened. Jesus has already conquered sin and death. Our salvation is there for us. The fullness of that reality is still something that we look forward to, that we await. The desire of God, the desire for that fulfillment, the desire to be close to God, is something that is wired within each one of our hearts. Always looking for that fulfillment with hopefulness. There are certain qualities of this that come through in our scriptures. In the responsorial psalm today, we heard that happy the people whose strength is in God. Their hearts are set upon the pilgrimage. When our hearts are set upon God, when we recognize that our true happiness lies ultimately and only with Him, and whatever leads us to Him, we're on that journey. We know where we need to go. We're on that pilgrimage. We walk it together as a people of faith. And St. John, in that beautiful reading, our second reading, he says, again, like salvation has already been won for us, John says, we are God's children now. We are God's children now. That relationship is there. The love that the Father has bestowed upon us has made us. We are called children of God, for so indeed we are. But what we shall later be, what we shall become, has not yet been fully revealed, John says. We know that when it is revealed, we shall be like Him, for we shall see Him as He is. And along the journey, the glimpses of what is to be revealed, right? They transform us. We're transformed by the opportunities. As Paul says in another place, what we see dimly now is in a mirror, kind of as a reflection. We shall later see face to face. We know where we get those glimpses, where we get that transformative power of God's grace along the journey, most especially here in the holy sacrifice of the Mass, in the reception of the sacraments. We have those gifts that open us up to seeing what is yet to come, help us to be focused. How important it is during this Jubilee year, then, first and foremost, to always remain connected to the sacramental life. And so much of the observances and the devotions around the Jubilee year, the pilgrimages to the various churches that we've designated, the 7 places for pilgrimage in our diocese, it's about seeking God's mercy and renewing our commitment to Him. A deeper and more devoted turning away from sinfulness. There is within that then that sense that God is already showing us where we need to go. He leads the way. And throughout this year of Jubilee then, we as followers of the Lord must ever more fully keep our eyes focused upon Him and tap into that desire that always is there, though we don't always pay attention to it with as much fervor or devotion. The Jubilee year provides us with an opportunity to do that, to be on pilgrimage towards that which is yet to come, and to create those opportunities, to set aside the time, to set aside a renewed commitment to prayer and devotion that lets us see that destiny a bit more. The scriptures today also give us, I think, some important insights into the attitude that we need to have on the pilgrimage. A few lessons that we can learn in order to make the pilgrimage ever more fruitful in this Jubilee year. The first is, I think, captured in an amazing way in that story from the book of Samuel in the first reading. It's about letting go. You know, pilgrims can't carry all kinds of things if they're walking, right? They can't carry a whole bunch of stuff. They can probably maybe have somebody else carry it for them, like happens on the Camino, as I'm told. But basically, you can only carry what you need. So somehow the pilgrimage is always going to have a certain amount of letting go. And in order to do that, I've got to trust God. I've got to trust God. And not to hold on to anything that I need to give to Him. Now, the story in the book of Samuel is the story, of course, of Hannah and the birth of her son, Samuel. Hannah, who with great grief had been childless, and she prays and she conceives, but she recognizes that this gift of God is not hers to keep or to possess in any way, in a rather extraordinary way that's sort of beyond comprehension. As soon as Samuel is weaned, Hannah goes on pilgrimage to the temple of the Lord in Shiloh, and she presents young Samuel to the temple. And she goes back to Eli, who had, on a previous occasion when she was at the temple, had heard her crying and sobbing, begging God for a child. And she says to Eli, I prayed for this child, and the Lord granted my request. Now I, in turn, give him to the Lord. As long as he lives, he shall be dedicated to the Lord. And Hannah left Samuel there. That's detachment. Right? Now, God is most likely not asking us to do that. I don't know where we would put them here, put the children here. But you think about that, though. It's kind of a radical sense of letting go. But we all, I think, can be challenged by that in some way. Is there something that even God has given us, something wonderful, something good, that can take possession of us and burden us down, even on the pilgrimage? The second, I think, lesson learned is seen very beautifully in the story of the finding of the child Jesus in the temple. So familiar to us, right? The fifth joyful mystery of the Rosary. Get into this story, we see that Mary and Joseph were actually on a pilgrimage. They go up to Jerusalem. They do it every year, we're told. Each year, Jesus' parents went to Jerusalem for the feast of Passover. And when he was 12 years old, they went up according to the festival custom. And they were bringing their growing boy with them on the pilgrimage. And as they were returning, they realized, eventually, after several days, that he wasn't with them. Something strikes me about that. You know, there's a sense that the awareness that I'm not with Jesus somehow spurs me on to go looking for him. Again, it's that desire, right? The desire that God's put into our hearts. So Mary and Joseph, who apparently weren't walking together, and one thought the other had the son. I mean, it's kind of a very profoundly human experience, right? They think everybody's going to be okay when they realize it's kind of, well, I thought he was with you. I had a blood. He was with you. Well, let's go back. So they go back, searching for Jesus. And they do, in this search, that looking for the Lord, searching for the Lord is marked by anxiety, a great deal of stress for them. And now Jesus is the incarnate Son of God, and he's in the dwelling place of God in Jewish tradition, the Temple of Jerusalem. He is indeed in his Father's house. There must have been some interior stirring in his heart that he knew where he was. But Mary and Joseph are anxious. They're searching for him. They go to the temple. They go on pilgrimage back to Jerusalem to find him. I think that stirs something in each of our hearts. Reflect on that. We're all searching for the Lord. And when we're looking, we can be anxious. We can be distressed. But we will find him where we know that he is, in the Father's house, in the context of the sacraments, in the living Word of God that he was explaining and responding in a very impressive way to the teachers of his time in the temple. Searching for Jesus. It's all part of the pilgrimage. And finally, along the pilgrimage, again, those encounters with grace, it's about letting that grace really shape us to live ever more fully in a manner that reflects on where we are going. That we look more and more like the people that God has created us to be. We are God's children now, but what we shall later be has not yet been revealed. But we do know that we shall see him as he is, because we shall become like him. And that maybe happens all at once in an instant, but it also happens all along the journey. So we need to be looking always for how God is trying to refine us more fully. Let this year ahead be one of renewed attention to how God desires to shape us ever more fully into his likeness and his image. To see that happening, St. John says, is to love, to keep his commandments, to do what pleases him. And his commandment is this: we should believe in the name of his Son, Jesus Christ, and love one another, just as he commanded. And in doing so, we remain in him, and God's at work in us all along the journey. My brothers and sisters, if we who have gathered on this day really take this to heart and allow this year ahead to be a time of renewed commitment for us as we embark on this spiritual pilgrimage for this year 2025, we will be a transformative presence in the diocese, in our parishes, in our families, in our communities. We will be able to reveal a little bit more that destiny that we all have, the end of the journey, to see God as he truly is. And it happens with letting go of whatever might hold us back, trust completely in God, by realizing and awakening and following up on that search for Jesus that we all know leads to happiness, to everlasting life. And then perhaps the most difficult one, to allow God's grace to help us to live in a manner that more fully reflects Him, our destiny, through our love for one another. May this year ahead be a time of great grace for you and your families and your loved ones and for our diocese as we journey together as pilgrims of hope. God bless you.